Sorry, I'm thrown off my game. A very rare instance where we got to have better walk-up music for Golden Throat here. Ben Milam joins us from SuperTalk, Mississippi. We just, around the office, call him The Voice, and everybody knows who we're talking about. You got a great voice, man.
Thanks, Dave. You too.
You really do.
That was very
thank
sweet.
You. I appreciate the socially acceptable lie. Now, I would ask you what's going on, but we don't have that much time. We've only have just over an hour and a half left in the show. It is so busy right now.
It really is. I mean, really since we'll say the first week of January when the legislative session started, for us at least, it's kind of been nonstop, and it feels like every day. Of course, you have a lot of stuff coming out of the state capitol in Jackson, but any other big thing just feels a little bit bigger because you have the session going on and all of the things federally going on with the executive orders and the all the judicial things that are going, or the battles in the courts regarding those executive orders and everything. So at the state and national level, and then you have everything else that is always going on in Mississippi, which is pretty constant. So lots to talk about and a lot we're not going to get to, Dave.
Yeah, that's the way it works. One thing, though, that is a big topic right now at the federal level, at the state level, everywhere, is DEI, and we have legislation working through the Mississippi legislature regarding that topic, which is getting a lot of attention.
It is. Two bills, one from each chamber. The House of Representatives earlier this week, I guess it would have been Wednesday, that they passed legislation that was aimed at addressing the DEI initiatives in specifically the state universities and public education settings, would effectively take out the kind of what is I'm trying to think of the old affirmative action, the original kind of DEI, right? Which it's kind of become this buzz, almost a cuss word, right, in certain circles. It is effectively going to do away with that and establish solely a merit-based system. And then the Senate, a day after, came out with their own bill and passed their own bill that is aimed at doing the same thing. And we know politicians, lawmakers love acronyms. It's called the Refocus Act, requiring efficiency for our colleges and universities system, Refocus Act. So that is specifically at higher education in Mississippi, would do the same thing. And so when you have a similar bill, almost exactly the same bill coming from both chambers, feel pretty strongly that something is going to be pushed through. One of those is going to be signed into law.
And, of course, there's always the chance that whatever minute differences they are, they just go into conference and, reach a deal, flip a quarter, and then move it on from there.
Yeah, that could be the case. And, again, these are very similar. There are really not a lot of major differences. And so it's probably going to be part of the process is getting together those lawmakers in different meetings, maybe deciding which one they agree on the most and, checking the box and putting it on Governor Tate Reeves' desk and signing it into law. Again, would assume one of these in some form or fashion is going to make it to the governor's desk.
I would love to hear the argument for why this is a bad idea and we should hire people based on anything other than how equipped, how talented, and how capable they are to do a job. Yeah, that just seems like it should be common sense, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not my place as a journalist to give my opinion on that, but I will say a lot of the Democratic lawmakers, primarily, there were some Republican lawmakers that voted against this, but primarily Democratic, who spoke up in both chambers, in the House and the Senate, against these bills. Kind of the general drive of their argument was that it would leave minority students without certain safety nets that would give them a sense of safety and security and even acceptance on campuses where they're not the most represented demographically, and that a lot of the majority students, white students, have advantages that they don't. And, of course, that is, an argument that the bill itself and those sponsoring it and those that authored it, both bills, do not accept.
Now, another big one that's going on, and we're not even talking about the biggest one, the thing that everybody is talking about out of the legislature, which is the income tax bill.
Yes.
But we've spent a lot of time on that. But one thing, we've gotten a little more information about it this week, the whole thing with online sports betting and the legislation passing through there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Caleb Sailors has done some really good work on this. This right now is just out of the House Bill 1302. And you can look it up. You can look any of these bills up and read them yourself. House Bill 1302 came out of the House and was passed on Monday pretty overwhelmingly, 82-10. And this was a very similar, it's almost a continuation of a bill that passed through the House last year. This year, it is familiarly, as it was called last year, called the Mississippi Sports Wagering Act. It would legalize online sports betting in the state of Mississippi. And really, I think the general feeling is that it's got an uphill battle in the Senate as it's passed to the other chamber, especially some of the leaders on the gaming committee in the Senate are opposed to online sports gambling, like Senator David Blunt. And it was kind of similar. There were similar hangups. A lot of the leaders just didn't want it in the Senate, and there was kind of a disconnect between the two chambers last year. Would expect something similar this year, but the conversation, I think, has evolved a little bit because of what you mentioned. House Bill 1, the Build Up Mississippi Act, would leave some revenue gaps in the state. If you're cutting all these taxes, you have to cover those gaps somehow, right? That's been a big, probably the biggest part of this conversation. Well, a lot of these neighboring states in the Southeast and across the country have legalized online sports betting and have brought in, for example, Tennessee, almost $100 million in additional tax revenue. Louisiana, after they passed it in their first fiscal year, brought in $64 million. So you would assume it would be a little less in Mississippi, but if it's $25 million, if it's $20 million, that's $20 million in state tax revenue that you did not have before. And, there's an ethical conversation, I think, in terms of the betting aspect and just letting it free flow. That's a lot of what the pushback is on the Senate side, I think. But it'll be really interesting to see, because a lot of these, almost all of the neighboring states around us, save Alabama and a few others, have passed this. And that's one of the best ways to convince lawmakers to do something is you look at very similar neighboring states and see what they have done and see that they benefited from it. So we'll see how it goes in the Senate. But again, it seems like it's going to be an uphill battle and might die again in the Senate.
It just feels to me like it's a very similar process to the one we went through to establish the lottery in Mississippi.
Yeah.
A lot of the same arguments, a lot of the same back and forth, but we eventually wound up in a place where everyone was comfortable enough with it to get it passed. That just from the outside looking in, it appears to be the process we're going through with this, too.
I think you're right. And a lot of it, one of the biggest hangups last year was how is this going to affect the existing brick-and-mortar casinos that are in Mississippi? That is a large part of our tourism industry. And those, as you would imagine, the leaders of those casinos and the lawmakers that represent the constituents in those counties, they hold a lot of power in this conversation because the casino industry is pretty limited in terms of geographic locations. And so they don't want to destroy the casino industry. They want to help it, and they want to keep these casinos whole. They don't want to hurt their sports betting ventures on the brick and mortar side of things. And so one of the tweaks in this new bill is that there would be a fund that would make casinos whole if they don't reach a certain threshold of revenue that they have previously hit on average on the sports betting side of things. From this fund, they would be made whole. And so they would be protecting that revenue from brick and mortar casinos. And so this is it's going to be a very long conversation. I would imagine that's going to drag on, towards the end of the session. But it'll be interesting to see because they want to find ways to recover some of that revenue if they're going to cut taxes.
Well, the one good thing to me is that previous legislatures, when they were putting in the casino laws, were very smart, and they built in things to make the casinos a destination, not just a
Right.
place to use the mechanism of gambling. I mean, if we didn't have that, it might be a different story, but I would point to athletics and concerts. You can stay home and watch them on TV, but a whole bunch of people don't because it's a destination. It's an experience,
That's right.
and I think that's important. Can you hang on through the break?
Sure
You
thing.
got nothing else to do, right?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Ben Milam, we are claiming his day here on Middays. We'll continue with him next. Joined by Ben Golden Throat Milam, and we are talking about all of the news going on. Well, let's go to something a little more cheerful for just a second. I was there yesterday for the Sale of Champions, but today officially the Dixie National Rodeo kicks off,
That's right. Day one, and it's going to be about a 2-week event. Of course, there'll be some days off in between there, but golly, if I were to give you a breakdown, it would, or a full rundown of all the events going on, it would take up this entire segment. Caleb Sailors did a great kind of know before you go what there is to know, everything there is to know, guide to the Dixie National Rodeo, 60th annual Dixie National Rodeo, the largest rodeo east of the Mississippi River. But there's a whole lot going on tonight. At the Trademark at 7 o'clock will be kind of one of the big commencement things. And there's really a whole host of other things going on today as well. But then tomorrow is the big parade, the kickoff parade, even though it is the day after the first day of it. But at 10:30, the kickoff parade will begin in downtown Jackson. And I'm trying to find the exact starting location of that at 10:30 a.m. Here it is at the corner of Mississippi and Jefferson Streets in downtown Jackson. You can go watch the procession begin, and then it'll go around the state capitol, travel down Amite Street all the way to the fairgrounds, and will come on back to the Capitol through President High and West Street. So all around downtown Jackson, you'll get a great look at some of the cowboys and cowgirls and local high school bands and everything in between. Of course, there's just endless live music. Got some really great musical acts at the rodeo per usual this year, but maybe especially so. I think some people are really excited about some of the musicians that'll take the stage at the Coliseum this year. But day one is today, Dave, for the 60th annual Dixie National Rodeo.
I know when I was leaving yesterday and returning back here to Southwest Mississippi after the remote, enjoyed that. I enjoyed that every time.
Oh, yeah.
Over at the Trademark. The wagon train had made it to the Byram area up the interstate coming north. They do it every year, and I love it every year because it's just such a non sequitur. You're not looking for that, but that's kind of one of the effects of the Dixie National Rodeo. Yeah. Almost the entire tenor of a big part of Jackson changes for a couple of weeks.
It does. It kind of feels like a different world almost, and I've never been a cowboy, I guess, if you want to say it that way. I've ridden horses and done things like that, and I got a little twang to me, but I'm not barrel racing or throwing lassos around calves or anything like that. But when you get into, you walk in the Coliseum and it's a dirt, the dirt covers the floor, and you see these legit cowboys and cowgirls doing their thing, and then you go listen to some country music, and you go see the livestock at the contest at the Trademark, and it just feels like you almost kind of step back into another time, a different world, however you want to say it. It's a really, really cool experience, and it makes you feel like a cowboy or cowgirl when you go do that.
And I'm going to reiterate something that was said by several different people yesterday. Tickets are selling fast for the nights that aren't already sold out. There are nights that are done. You just can't get in at this point.
Yeah, there are, and I know the Ella Langley shows and Zach Top shows, which are the I think that's next weekend. Please don't quote me on any of this stuff because, again, there's just a lot of different directions and different kinds of events to this. But we would encourage you to go either to supertalk.fm and see Caleb's guide to the 2025 Dixie National Rodeo for details on this, or the Dixie National website. Ella Langley, Zach Top, two kind of the headline shows. Those are both sold out, and the limited crop of tickets are also sold out for that. But a long list of other really, really exciting shows. And, of course, that includes the rodeo aspect of, some of the really cool cowboy things, if you will, and contests that go along with that. There's also the high school rodeo that'll go on next weekend, Sunday in the afternoon. That's one of the really cool things I like to go see, is some of these youngsters doing it for the first time in front of a really big crowd, and you get to cheer them on and see them do some really, really impressive things.
It's going to be a big time. Another big time is coming up 1 week from today, though, when we get college baseball season underway.
Oh, Dave, don't get me started, man. I've got the itch. Big time. I'm ready for some baseball, and we're starting to get a little taste of that baseball weather, just a little bit. And as it often does, it's going to cool down significantly next weekend for opening day. It's going to be a little bit chilly, but it'll still be a great weekend. High expectations for all three of the major D1 programs for Southern Miss. We got some of the preseason projections and all conference teams yesterday. Mississippi State, the only team in the top 25, preseason top 25 per D1 baseball, ranked number 18 in that preseason ranking, had one on the All-SEC first team, preseason All-SEC first team. That is Hunter Hines, a well-known quantity for the Bulldogs. He's got a chance to break the school record for career home runs this season, the first baseman / DH. And then Hunter Elliott, back after almost 2 full years, who was because he was rehabbing an injury. Of course, the freshman phenom was a big part of that national championship run for Ole Miss in 2022. He's back, second team All-SEC in the preseason, and Southern Miss landed 5 on the All-Sun Belt preseason team, picked to win the conference. And backtracking just a little bit, Mississippi State picked to finish 9th in the SEC. Ole Miss picked to finish 15th, so some low expectations for the Rebels this season. But Southern Miss picked to win the Sun Belt in the regular season and had 5 on the preseason first team. That's Colby Allen, starting pitcher Colby Allen, first baseman Matthew Russo, shortstop Ozzie Pratt, left fielder / DH Davis Gillespie, and second baseman Nick Monester. Lots to be excited about. I think high expectations for all three of these teams, even if Ole Miss, kind of down the table a little bit. I think the Rebels are going to have a good year along with these other two.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Don't count them out, because you want to sneak up on people sometimes. You don't start the season with that big target on your back.
That's right. Yeah.
And basically at this point, 1 week out from opening day, the Rebels have everyone else exactly where they want them. That's the way you look at it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And a lot of the reason there are low expectations for Ole Miss is because they have so many new faces, but some really talented portal additions on the transfer side of things. And kind of in a similar position that Mississippi State was in, that national championship hangover. It's been 2 years since they've been in the postseason, but Mississippi State got back to the postseason last year to snap their 2-year streak. And I really think Ole Miss will do the same this year. I think they've got some real talent, along with some veteran pieces on the pitching staff, Hunter Elliott that we mentioned. But you talk about sneaking up on people in 2022. They really, there was an argument that they shouldn't have even made the NCAA tournament. And then they ran through it, and nobody really got even close to beating them, save for a couple of times in Omaha, and they win the national championship. So baseball is just a funny game, man, and it's really hard. It's fun to talk about the preseason predictions, but it really doesn't mean a whole lot until you roll it out there.
Well, and just like the regular season, with the exception of getting you into the playoffs, after that, it doesn't matter. Ole Miss proved it with that run that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's it. If you've got the talent on the roster, a lot of it is veteran leadership, and all three of these teams have that kind of cornerstone and foundation. And then it's just getting hot at the right time, and having those pieces that can consolidate and fit together in the right way at the right time. And then anybody can beat anybody. That's what college baseball is all about, and that's what makes it great.
Well, my favorite part about this is we lose perspective sometimes. How many states have 3 major universities to where the argument is which one is the biggest lock to make it to the College World Series and which one it might only host a regional? We are so in a land of suffering when it comes to college baseball, aren't we?
I think we're the best. I really do. Because, of course, you have states like Texas and Florida, but I mean, you look at the population, and the difference is night and day. And then you take the population into account. Mississippi had 3 of the top 9 home average attendances in the entire country last year. Mississippi State led the country in attendance. Ole Miss number 4, Southern Miss number 9 in the country. You take any state, or you take our population and put it in any other state, they're not going to come close to that. We love our baseball, and we're dang good at it, Dave. I'm ready to get it going and see a little more baseball.
Ben just wants a hot dog. Let's just be honest here.
Yeah, I do. Badly.
Yeah, see?
Badly.
That's
all I'm thinking about.
Talking about. That is sausage dog. Go with the sausage dog.
Oh.
That's always the.
I love me a sausage dog too.
We're coming up on lunch. I'm trying to pregame you a little bit here.
Dave.
Ben Milam with SuperTalk Mississippi News. Always enjoy having you in here, man. Keep up the excellent work and try to keep Caleb under control. I know it's hard.
It's a tall task, but I'll do my best.
I have no doubt. We continue on Middays in the Element Wealth Studios next.